Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today's DIY is a bit of an evolution on a project I shared earlier this year. So back in the spring, I shared a intense hand rescue cream. It was a really rich, thick, gorgeous hand cream designed to really help our hands cope with lots and lots of hand washing as best as they can. I absolutely adore that cream. I've got a tub of it by my computer and another tub of it by my bed, so I'm never without it. But the more I use the thicker version, I kind of got to thinking, hey, I love this cream, so how about I make like a thinner version that I can put in like a squeeze tube or a pump top bottle to make it a little bit more portable. And so that's what we're making today. I'm calling it a Nourishing Hand Rescue Lotion. There's really no hard definition difference between a cream and a lotion, but people do tend to think of creams as being thicker and richer and lotions as being a little bit thinner and lighter. The biggest difference between this sort of lotion version and the earlier cream iteration is the size of the oil phase. In the cream version, the oil phase is 26.25%, whereas in this version, it is just 16.9%. That drop in oil phase size alone is enough to significantly reduce the viscosity of the end product, making it much better suited to things like squeeze bottles and pump top bottles rather than a wide jar. This lotion version also features a simpler oil phase, so you will find a shorter ingredient list for this one than for the cream version. And I also included more of some of my favorite ingredients, so you will find more colloidal oatmeal and more ceramide complex in the lotion version than there is in the cream. I really love this hand lotion. I'm honestly not sure if I love it more than the cream version. I think I love them both equally. They're just kind of a little different, but also a little the same, and I love it. If you really love gorgeous hand lotions, I think you will love it too. As always, please make sure you are reading the blog post that's linked in the description box below, or just go to humblebeeandme.com and search for the name of this project. I've also included chapter links down in the description box below to help you easily navigate through the video so you can skip to or rewatch bits as you please. But come on, let's get started. We'll begin by combining the ingredients for our heated water phase and our heated oil phase in two separate heat-resistant glass measuring cups. So this one is going to be our water phase, and we've already got 62.5 grams of distilled water in this measuring cup. Before we combine everything, I do want to pre-disperse the xanthan gum in our vegetable glycerin. So this is 0.3 grams xanthan gum. I'm adding it to 15 grams vegetable glycerin. Give that a good stir, and once that is uniform, transfer it into the water. And then 1 gram colloidal oatmeal. For our heated oil phase, you're going to need 3.9 grams glyceryl stearate SE, and if you need substitutions, please read the blog. 3 grams stearic acid, 3 grams C12 to 15 alkyl benzoate, 3 grams Neossance Hemisqualane or olive squalane, 2 grams cetearyl alcohol, and 2 grams dimethicone 350. And again, if you need substitutions, please read the blog post linked in the description box below this video, or go to humblebeeandme.com and search for the name of this project. Before we heat anything through, we're going to weigh our water phase, making sure to note that the weight also includes that of the spatula, and that's so we can replace any water lost to evaporation during heating. To heat everything through, we're going to use a water bath. So this is a wide flat bottom saute pan with about 1 inch or 3 centimeters of water in the bottom of it, and I'm going to put both of our phases in the water bath and then go put this on the stovetop for about half an hour over medium heat to heat everything through to the same temperature and melt everything in the oil phase. Once everything has heated through, you can remove your pan from the heat. So up next, we're going to top off the water phase. I'm just drying that off here, and I'll pop that on the scale, and then refer to that weight we wrote down earlier and top it up to that same number with a little bit of preheated distilled water. So now we're going to grab our immersion blender and blend. So start with a few short blends and then work up to a full blend so you don't spray hot lotion everywhere. All right, so that was about 2.5 minutes of blending. This is coming together really nicely, definitely still very hot, so I'm gonna leave this to cool for about 5 minutes before coming back and blending it some more. All right, it has been 5 minutes. Got a little bit more viscosity going on, and we are going to give this another thorough blending with our immersion blender. All right, that was about another minute of blending, and I'm really liking this consistency. This is looking really gorgeous. I don't want to keep blending it because I can see that we're starting to incorporate some bubbles, and I don't want to incorporate a bunch of bubbles into the final project. So we are done with done with using the immersion blender. And I'm just going to kind of hand stir this as needed. But for now, I'm going to put the immersion blender away and we're going to weigh out our cool down phase. So our cool down phase is fairly simple, just 4 ingredients. So we're going to need 0.3 grams allantoin, 1.5 grams ceramide complex, 1 gram calendula extract, and 1.5 grams Optiphen Plus. Once the lotion has cooled to room temperature, we can combine it with our cool down phase. You can see that little spoon there, that is the one that I use to scoop out the ceramide complex, and that stuff is expensive. So I'm not going to waste even the tiniest amount that was left on my spoon, so I'm using that to stir it all together here. Once your cool down phase is uniform, use your spatula to scrape it back into the parent batch and stir to combine. Now, since we used Optiphen Plus as our preservative, our next step is testing the pH of this product and adjusting as necessary. And from previous experience making this formulation, we will need to downward adjust it a little bit. So I'm grabbing what we need to test the pH here. You're going to need a few dishes to make your diluted samples in to test them with. You're going to need a pH meter to do the testing. You'll need some distilled water. I'm using a 50% citric acid solution to lower the pH, so that is equal parts citric acid and distilled water by weight, and then a small little whisk. So I'm gonna pop that on our scale here. Just move the pH meter because it's quite top heavy and easy to knock over. I'm gonna put about 2 grams of lotion in the dish. If it's like 2.1 or something, don't worry about it. Better to go a little bit over than a little bit under. And then we're going to add enough distilled water to bring that up to 20 grams, which will be roughly a 10% dilution. And then we're going to whisk to combine. So I'm going to take the pH meter out of its storage solution and rinse it off. I'm going to turn this on, tip the dish so that you can fully submerge the sensor, and then pop it in here and wait for your result. With this pH meter, you get a little happy face when the reading has finalized. This one is made by Apera, and I will link to it in the blog post, which is linked in the description box below. All right, got a little happy face at 6.61, which is right in line with my previous batches. So I'm just gonna rinse this off and set it to the side. So this little mixture will be discarded, so I'll just put that to the side there. And now I'm going to add 3 drops of this 50% citric acid solution. 1, 2, 3, and stir to combine. And with that combined, we're going to make another dilution just the same way we did before, and then test that. If you don't have a pH meter, an easy workaround is to use a preservative with a broader effective pH range, like Liquid Germall Plus, which is the preservative I usually use, and that is a large part of why I usually use it. So if you are in that boat, head over to the blog at humblebeeandme.com to read about how to swap the two, as the usage rates are a bit different. All right, and that getting a happy face at 5.2, which is exactly where my previous batches ended up as well, with the 3 added drops of citric acid. Just gonna rinse that off, turn that off, and set it aside to dry off a bit before putting it away. So with our pH all adjusted and tested and happy, all that's left to do now is packaging this up. For packaging, I'm going to use this 100 milliliter soft squeeze tube from Humblebee. I really love these tubes, though filling them can be a bit tricky. So in order to do so, I'm going to use an empty syringe. So you can see this obviously doesn't actually have like a stabby part. It's just a fine hole. And I'm going to prop this up in a beaker and use a small bottle that I have on hand. This one's a citric acid one, just to prop it up. And then I'm going to fill the syringe. And when the syringe is mostly full, which for this syringe is not quite a full 100 gram batch, we're ready to start the transfer process. I'm just gonna kind of clear a little bit of room here. Now, when I did this for the blog post, for this post, I had the most seamless filling experience with one of these squeeze tubes I ever have. So this is probably gonna be on film the worst I've ever done. So one of the first things you wanna do is you wanna squeeze a bunch of air out of here to make room for the product, and kind of, line it up, grab the plunger, work that in there, and then just squirt it in there. And if you're noticing you're building up a bit of pressure, lift it over top of the container, so if anything kind of falls out, it goes somewhere where it's still useful. Knock that down, squeeze again. Guys, I'm not completely making a massive mess out of this. Hooray! All right, so now I'll just grab the last of the lotion from our measuring cup there, pull that out, prop her up again, get every last gorgeous ceramide drop out of this measuring cup. I get a lot of questions about these spatulas. They are the bestest spatulas ever. They are made by NorPro and sold as like a jar / icing spatula. I'll make sure to link to them in the blog post, and I also link to them in a blog post I did called DIY Equipment I Use All the Time, which contains links to all kinds of awesome stuff that I love that I'm sure you've seen in my videos if you've watched more than 1 or 2 of them. So yeah, I'll throw a link to that in the description box too. Once you've got every last little bit of lotion in there, give that a little bit of a knocking down. Squeeze out the air. Obviously, once you have a bunch of product in here, you have to be careful to just squeeze out the air and not the product. Keep that lined up. And that's it. Put a lid on and wipe off any excess. For a bit of an application demo, I'll just kind of grab what's left on the spatula there. So it just rubs in so quickly, has this absolutely stunning slip. I don't notice any soaping at all. Just, oh my gosh, it feels absolutely gorgeous and has just been really wonderful for my hands with all the hand washing I've been doing. And there we go. So we just made an absolutely lovely Nourishing hand rescue lotion. This is a sort of thinner, more pump top, squeeze tube friendly version of a formulation that I shared several months ago. So make sure you're checking that out as well if you prefer a thicker, richer end product. But yeah, this is sort of an evolution of that idea because I ended up loving that product so much. For more information, please make sure you're reading the blog post linked in the description box below. There's a lot more information down there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.